Good Erev Shabbat, everyone. I want to thank our sponsors for this week. Susan and Lenny Presby, Elishma Susan's mother, Taibavat Yitzhak Yaakov, Lashon Mizratzit is today. Her neshama should have an aliyah. And thank also the Presbys for sponsoring Elishma Susan's father, Yitzhak Isaac ben Mordechai Olav Shalom. Thank also Chaim Yelfuld sponsoring as a schut for the son Binyamin, fighting valiantly with our soldiers in protection of our land and our people. And also thank Ellen and Peter Tillum sponsoring this month in gratitude to our Chayalim for their defense of everything that is holy in the world. So, Erev Shabbat, Parshiot Bahar B'chukotai, and B'chukotai we have one of the most famous passages, at least oft quoted, in the Meshech Chochmah. And what Meir Simcha Cohen of Dvinsk writes here is something that reverberates in every generation, and something therefore that we should think about in our own today. So at the very end of the Tochacha, the Torah says, God's promise to us, "Ve'af gam zot b'yotom be'eretz ovehem," even though we'll be in the land of our enemies, lo ma'astim lo ga'altim l'chalotam. God will not scorn us or despise us to destroy us, to nullify the covenant with us, K'nei Hashem Elokechem, because I'm the Lord your God, meaning we'll survive even the harshest and most cruel of all exiles. And this, the Meshech Chochmah writes, is something that we have to think about, trying to understand as much as we can the ways of divine providence. And he says one of the things that we realize is that God set us up almost to be a people that would be in exile, but that would be able to survive in exile as well. There are different types of tachbulot, stratagems that we've historically used in order to survive the exile, so we should not assimilate. And this started really with Yaakov Avinu. When Yaakov went to Mitzrayim, the first thing he did is make sure that we would stand out in terms of Bigdeihem Ushmotehem, our clothing and our name, meaning there'd be distinctive Jewish garb and distinctive Jewish names. So even if we wanted to assimilate, it would be very hard because we're wearing the garments. Yeah, it is superficial because you can take off the garment and blend in. On the other hand, when you're wearing the garment, and this Haredim know quite well, they do many things well, this one especially, many things not so well, but when you are publicly identifiable as a Jew, in theory at least, it makes it more difficult to sin, and it makes it more difficult to assimilate. And that's the first thing Yaakov did. The second thing that he did is make sure he always felt this yearning for the land of Israel by requiring his children to bury him there. When you want to be buried in a different land, you're telling your host country, my destiny is not here. My destiny is elsewhere. And that's what he wanted in order to inculcate l'shtokek el eretz avotehem. They should yearn for, desire the land of their fathers. And thirdly, he taught us as well that wherever we go in the exile, we're not going there to settle in, literally to be sunk in the land, something we mentioned in the Haggadah itself, rak lagur, to dwell there, to live there, to pass the time until Mashiach comes. And so the Gemara says on the pasuk Vayakutsu mipnei bnei Yisrael that the Egyptians became disgusted with us. They saw us like kutzim, as thorns. You may be stuck by a thorn, but it's not part of you. That's how they view the Jews as well. And therefore, our survival itself in the exile is really a mofet, nifla. It's wondrous. It's astonishing that we are able to endure in order to fulfill what he calls the matra nizgava elokit, this exalted divine purpose that we have. Problem is, it's the same story in every exile. We go there and then we think already, well, this is where we have to be, and we do start blending in. And we focus on various things in order to maintain the and the nation, the religion and the nation. And yet, the more we become accustomed to life, the more we flourish in each of these lands, the more at home we become. And then the pattern starts. The pattern is that we're driven out from one land, lemerchakim. We have to go to a great distance. And then we settle in there, and it's difficult, there's persecution, but we overcome. And we settle, and we start thinking that, yeah, we're here, and this is where we're supposed to be. And we stop learning the Torah, we start observing the mitzvahs, and we learn their language, and we learn from the less refined of our Gentile neighbors, not the more refined. And then he said these words, Yachshov ki Berlin hi Yerushalayim. We start thinking that Berlin is Jerusalem. And he wrote this in decades before the Holocaust. He was in Dvinsk in Latvia. And we follow the worst ways of the Gentiles, not the better ways. And then we are engulfed by the storm and the flames. Well, I've said many, many times, the two rules, the two laws of the exile that cannot be repealed. The first is that every exile comes to an end. And the second is that Jews always leave that exile too late. And in every exile in which we've lived, and America is no different, we think Berlin is Jerusalem, like New York and Lakewood and Washington and Muncie and everywhere else. We think we're here and this is it, and it's as holy. We perform the same mitzvot, we give the same fervor, etc. And we think we're here for forever. And forever, though, has an expiration date in the exile. This, the Meshech Chochmah, who died 15 years before the Holocaust started, this, the Meshech Chochmah, underscores for us something to think about in every generation. Berlin is Berlin. It's not Yerushalayim. Yerushalayim is Yerushalayim. And there's no city like it. Ir Hashem, Ir David, God City, David City. That's where we have to be. Shabbat Shalom to all.